Everybody's watching tonight. The ANC's National Working Committee was meeting. It's adjourned its meeting with the party's top officials at Luthuli House, the ANC headquarters. A short while ago, the Working Committee deferred the issue of President Jacob Zuma to a special sitting of the National Executive Committee on Wednesday night. That's the day before the State of the Nation address. For the latest, we cross to our reporter live outside Luthuli House, Aldrin Sampear. He's been there the entire day. There's been clashes in the run-up and during these meetings between pro-President Zuma supporters and anti-President Zuma supporters as well. Aldrin, but the big focus, this deferment, what do you know?
Well, you know, as you're explaining what was happening outside Luthuli House makes me think about what could have been happening inside the NWC meeting, considering that inside the statement that has been released by the ANC, they say that after extensive deliberations, the clashes that were taking outside could probably be an indication or an inkling of what you can use and say that that might be an indication of what could have been happening inside that room where the NWC members were sitting and deliberating the outcome of that meeting that took place between President Jacob Zuma as well as the ANC's top 6 officials. As it stands at the moment, the decision has now been taken to defer the matter on President Jacob Zuma's future as the future of as the president of the country to a special NEC that will be sitting on Wednesday, and this is literally a day before the SONA sits down, before the SONA is supposed to be addressed. And this is something quite interesting because what it points to, it means that this is an urgent matter. It's never happened before that you have an urgent emergency NEC meeting sitting just before a State of the Nation address. It really does point to this issue being a rather pressing issue for the ANC.
And the big question, Aldrin, will or won't the president be recalled by the National Executive Committee that has the power to do that? What do you think, looking at the balance of forces within the National Executive Committee?
Well, if you take into consideration the meeting that the top 6 officials have already had with President Jacob Zuma, and of course, as it stands now, it's quite clear that he did not give in. And I was just checking now, you look at President Jacob Zuma's approach when it comes to issues of litigation, the Stalingrad approach. He fights in every corner and makes sure that he moves out of those corners victorious. And this is what we expect from President Jacob Zuma, that President Jacob Zuma will not just accept a recall from the ANC, that he will ask those questions around why exactly is it that you want me to go? Why do you point out issues around state capture when I have not been found guilty of being corrupt and so forth? So President Jacob Zuma will not just give in. And also, of course, the standoff that's currently happening with inside the ANC NEC. And I was saying yesterday to Sampear as well that if you look as it stands at the moment, that President Jacob Zuma many years ago may have referred to Thabo Mbeki as a dead snake. President Jacob Zuma is not a dead snake at all. It still shows that he's still wielding power with inside the ANC, and that's why you have this back and forth around the issue around whether President Jacob Zuma goes or does not go. Certainly, there are people within the ANC that are fighting for him, within the NEC, fighting for him to complete his term.
It's so interesting because this was discussed before the ANC conference, and it seemed like a National Executive Committee, the highest decision-making body, it seemed as if it was split down, possibly down the middle. And then we saw that race so close between Cyril Ramaphosa and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Has there been any realignment since then, do we know, within the NEC? Any changes in allegiance, I guess?
Well, if you look at what happened during the elective conference, heading into the elective conference, everyone believed that Didi Mabuza, who was then just the chairperson of the ANC in Mpumalanga, was someone who was standing with Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, only to find out that he was actually in support of Cyril Ramaphosa. And remember, about 2 weekends ago when he was in Polokwane, this is now Didi Mabuza, who said that he will protect the president of the ANC, who is Cyril Ramaphosa, and he called on ANC members to rally behind Cyril Ramaphosa. So it would seem that there have been some allegiances that have switched. If you look at statements that have been issued or remarks that have been made by the likes of Fikile Mbalula, for instance, who have also made his voice heard with regards to this issue. So it's quite interesting what's currently happening with inside the ANC NWC, and of course that there is this balance of forces and the slight shift that's currently taking place. But in whose favor exactly is this taking place? And does President Jacob Zuma still enjoy the same support that he enjoyed during his tenure as president of the ANC? Remember, just before, was it last year? Last year there were 3 attempts to within the NEC to remove the president, and that's something that we need to take into consideration as well, because the NEC does not take a decision via vote. It is based on consensus. So what would the consensus be on Wednesday with regards to President Jacob Zuma's future as the president of the country?
Everybody will be watching that meeting on Wednesday. Thank you very much, Aldrin Sampear, outside Luthuli House. Let's see what happened earlier. The divisions playing out outside the ANC's headquarters today. There were very angry scenes between pro and anti-President Zuma protesters.